All right, we are ready to go. If this is your first time joining me, I want to say welcome to you. My name is Rhonda M. Jordan, and today what I'm going to be doing is sharing with you some information that I believe it's going to come in handy for you. If not right now, you'll want to save this because at some point in the future, it's definitely going to come in handy. What we're going to be discussing today are benchmarks for a variety of different things. So, for example, we're going to talk about email benchmarks. We're going to talk about subscriber count benchmarks. We're going to talk about conversion rates, click through rates, all of those types of things that, as I mentioned, maybe they're not applicable to you right now, but at some point in the future, I promise you they will be. You're going to find yourself Googling these percentages because you're going to see. For example, you're going to see that you sent out an email and a smaller percentage of people opened it than you actually thought would open it. And as we get through this information, you're going to find out that probably you're right on target. So I definitely want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to say hello if you'd like to. You can certainly drop a comment into the chat, and that way I get the opportunity to know that you're here and I can acknowledge you. And also. I want to say hello to Mickey, who's online with us. And I see that Denise also just jumped in with us as well. So, as I mentioned, these things are going to be really, really important as you go through things because what's going to happen is at some point you're going to question these things. And so, as I mentioned, this is designed for you to get the information you need to make sure that you really are on target. So, as I mentioned, today we're discussing benchmarks. And I want to make sure you have your notepad, however it is that you take notes, whether it's digitally, if you're writing things, because you'll want to be able to come back and refer to these. All right. So, let's see here. Oh, we have Dee on as well. Hello to you as well. I appreciate you all being on live. And I also want to say hello to those of you that might be watching us via the replay. You can feel free as well to drop in and say hello. And if you'd like to, you can even share where it is that you're watching from. So, all right. So I always let you know that I have a monitor in front of me that has my notes on it. So when you see me looking down as opposed to right into the camera, I'm going through my notes. I've definitely written out a lot of stuff that I want to share with you. So get ready to take notes. We're going to jump right into it. All right, so the first thing I want to let you know is I remember when I first started sending out email messages. And, it was one of those things where when you write that very first email, and I'm talking about the weekly broadcast that goes out, not a welcome series or anything like that. But when you write that and you get ready to hit send, and I shouldn't really say send because I schedule everything, and it automatically goes out through the autoresponder that is there. I can remember feeling all sorts of anxiety, but at the same time, there was this sense of relief. I did it, I got it out. And then the next morning, because I had it scheduled, when I went in and I looked at my statistics, and this is something, write this in your notes, you have to get really good at looking at your analytics on any platform you're on. If you're using, a platform to grow your business, make sure that you review whatever analytics they have because that's only going to give you data that you can use to grow your business. So, back to the story. I remember looking at the analytics and thinking, "Oh my goodness, what went wrong?" I sent this out to a bunch of people and very few of them opened it. But what I didn't realize at the time was I was right on target. So let me give you some information that you should definitely be aware of. So we're going to jump right into the things specific to email messages. So as you begin to grow your email list, one of the things that you should be doing is picking a day and a time that you are going to send your email message out because you want your audience to get to a point where they can count on hearing from you on a specific day and time. Now, once that message goes out, here's some things you should be aware of. And I'm going to just use an example of a list of 100. It could be 1,000, it could be 10,000, whatever, but we're going to just focus on a list of 100. If you send out a 100 email message, broadcast message, and a broadcast is one you're sending as opposed to the system sending like a welcome series. When you send that out, here's what you should expect in terms of an open rate: 25% to 35%. Now, some of you, that's going to surprise you because you're thinking, you mean to tell me 65 to 75 people on my list of 100 are not going to open my email? Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm telling you. If you can hit 25 to 35%, you are right on target. The reason why I'm sharing this with you is I don't want you to go through that disappointment that I went through because I just didn't know any better. Now, I took the liberty of going in and taking a look at my account. And I send out an email message every Tuesday. If you're not on my list, you can click the description below or go into the description box below. There's 4 different free business tools, and that will put you onto my list. But here's what I'm going to tell you. My open rate for the last 90 days has been 34.82%. Okay, so I'm right on target. So don't worry about it. As long as I'm hitting somewhere in that 25 to 35%, I feel really good about things. All right, so I'm going to go back and just say hello to a few people that I might have missed. Okay, it looks like I got everybody on there. Let's see here. Okay, Okay, I'll come back and get those as well. All right, so that's what you should be shooting for. Now, here's what I've also found, because as I mentioned, one of the things you should do is when you're first starting to send out email messages, you really need to do some, testing to figure out what is going to be the best day and time for you to get a good open rate. So I, tried a couple different days. Actually, I tried several different days, but I landed on Tuesday mornings and I send my email messages out at 6:05 a.m. People always ask me, why 6:05? Because it's not 6 o'clock when every other email message is going out. It's going out slightly after that. Could I pick 5:55? Sure, I could. But I know that if I send that message out at that time, by 8 a.m., I'm going to have about a 13 to 15% open rate, which means I'm right on target. And then throughout the course of the day and over the next couple of days, that percentage is going to continue to rise, and I'm going to get to my 25 to 35% open rate. If you are not getting in that range, you got to do something different. Something is off. And it might take you a little time to get accustomed to this. So I'm going to share a few more things with you. In addition to the click or in addition to the open rate, there's a couple of other things you should be checking as well or evaluating. And the first thing is your click rate. So typically in an email message that you send out, there's going to be some type of call to action, which means you're going to direct people to a next step or something you want to share with them. Typically at this point, and this will change in the future, I'm sharing with people what my upcoming live on Wednesday will be. And they have the opportunity to click on it and, just say that they want to be notified. They can always click on it as well and say they want to watch the replay. But your click to something or what you might have them going to could be a lead, well, probably not a lead magnet because they're already on your list, but it could very well be to a guide or something that you're offering, a product that you have, upcoming master class that you have. It could be almost anything, something that you are sharing with them. Now, there are times where I've just given a gift to my email subscribers. Nothing, I'm not asking them for anything. I'm just simply saying, hey, here's something that will help you grow your business. Click on it and you can get your copy. You can download your copy. You're not going to have to sign up for anything else. You're not going to have to do anything. It's just strictly a gift. Typically, when you do something like that, you're going to get a higher click through rate. If you are directing them to a product, let's say, then you might get a click through rate. And let me tell you what a normal click through rate is, which is going to be approximately 2 to 5%. So of the let's go back to our numbers. We had 100 email subscribers, 25 to 35 opened our email, and of that 25 to 35 people, 2 to 5% of them are going to click whatever link you have in there. Now, here's a couple of things I want to share with you. First and foremost, you probably do not, well, you shouldn't load up your email messages that are going out with a bunch of links. One, because that's going to likely trigger a spam filter. So your email message, although it goes out to people, it may very well end up in their spam folder because it had too many links in it. The second thing is, let's say you have 3 links in your email message. Confused people do nothing. And that's probably what you're going to do because now people are thinking, well, which one should I click? Which one should I click? Give people the fewest number of options possible to send them somewhere. Because again, once they get confused, they will just do nothing because people would rather make no decision at all than to make a bad decision. Now, the other thing is, this is something else you should be aware of. When you have a product, it's typically going to take someone seeing it about 7 times before they're going to make a decision to purchase it. And that's if they're interested in it. So you also have to look at that, which means that when you're sending out your email message, periodically you're going to include a link to that digital product, let's say. Okay, let's say that's what it is. Now, you can't do that every week because you are going to overwhelm people. As a matter of fact, you're probably going to end up upsetting people. Remember your value to promotion rule. The value to promotion rules really says this. If you are sending out 10 email messages, okay, 8 of them should really have some kind of value, just straight value. 2 of them you can straight up sell. I mean, you can straight up promote it. But if you flip that and you're selling 80% of the time and only providing valuable information 2 times or 20% of the time, you're going to turn people off. And then the next problem you're going to run into is unsubscribes because people, once they get to a point where they're frustrated or they feel like all this person ever does is sell me, they're going to get off your list. Okay. So let me just reiterate that. If you are sending out an email message, do not load it up with links. Okay. The second thing is don't constantly sell to people. And then the other thing is when you do, in fact, have links in there, you also want to make a point of going back to your analytics and just checking to see what happened. How many people clicked on it? How many people didn't click on it? How many people unsubscribed? Because all those things are going to happen. All right, so let me go back and look at my click-through rate. So remember I said a good click rate is going to be somewhere between 2 and 5%. My click rate over the last 90 days has been 3.78%. The email subscribe or platform that I'm using is actually giving me all the statistics, and yours will as well. It's unlikely unless you're on a free plan, but if you're on a paid plan, then you should have statistics that you can go to. So with a 3.78% click rate, once again, I'm right in range. I'm right in the average. All right. Now, the next thing is your unsubscribe rate. You are going to get people unsubscribing to your list. That's just a fact of life. I'm sure you've unsubscribed to lists. Why do people unsubscribe? One is going to be maybe they're no longer interested in the topic. Maybe they've decided you're not the mentor for them. Maybe you have changed topics and suddenly the people that came to you for one thing are now hearing about something else. So they're going to hit the eject button and get up out of there. And then you may just have some people that because you're selling too much, that's going to frustrate them. And you know what? All of these things are real. All of them are things that you should be aware of. Remember, your goal is going to be to attract your audience, but at the same time, you should be repelling people, which means people are getting out of there. So, what is a good unsubscribe rate? It's going to be 0.1% to 0.5%. Okay. Now, let me take a look at my. I'm going to have to go into the individual emails. So, let me just take a look at the message I sent out last week, Tuesday, which would have been February 17th. My unsubscribe rate was 0.67, which means it was a little high. Okay. So I need to work on that. However, this week, the message that went out yesterday, I had no unsubscribes. Now, I need to work on that as well because I should have some unsubscribes as well on a regular basis. All right, so let's just see here. Anybody surprised by the statistics on any of this? Because I know I sure was when I definitely looked at this. Now, another thing that I want to share with you about unsubscribe rates is if your unsubscribe rates start getting in the 2 to 3% range, you got to look at some things because something's going wrong. It might be the quality of your email messages. It might be that, people just are not getting valuable information from you. It might simply be that, maybe you said something in an email message that offended some people. In the climate we live in today, that is not at all uncommon that might happen. But again, you got to look at that. Look at that. Now, I want to go back to your open rate for just 1 second. Another thing that can also make a huge difference in terms of your open rate is going to be your email subject line. If your email subject line is not one that makes people curious, makes them want to click and open it, then I can tell you that could be another reason why your open rates are a little bit low. So all of these things are things to consider as you're going through and you're creating emails and remember email messages, and then remember each time your goal is to get a little bit better. So you're going to start off maybe with a higher than normal on a rate where people are not opening your emails. That's okay. Just work to improve yourself the next time. Always focus on, one of my mentors always says, just try to get 1% better each time. And that's what you're going to focus on. So maybe if you sent out an email message and you really didn't have a great open rate, look at it, figure out what you might be able to do different, try something different. Because we're building online businesses, we're in marketing. Marketing is all about testing things. You have to continuously test things to find out what's going to work. All right? Okay, so I'm going to pull up Denise's comment. She says that I am surprised by this. I need to look at my analytics, but like I said, I don't always know what to put in them. Mostly, I just send out my newsletter. So, one of the things that when I take you through a content training, that's going to also include content that should go in or could go into an email message. So, one thing that I would suggest is lean into educational type content, but also include some things about yourself. So, you might want to share a personal story. You might want to talk about something you did over the weekend just to connect, because remember, you also need to build the know, like, and trust factors. And by sharing things about your world, hey, I planted flowers this weekend. Hey, I traveled, to or saw a movie this weekend. Or hey, this weekend I did absolutely nothing but sit on the couch and read a book. Whatever it is, those types of things make you human in the eyes of people, and your audience will get to know that. They feel like you're letting them into your world. You only give them whatever information it is you want, but just, stay within your content pillars. So, those 3 to 5 content pillars that you have, one of which should always be yourself, and make sure that you're moving from content pillar to content pillar. In other words, like for me, with my content pillars, every week I'm talking about something different in my email messages. And the reason for it is if all I ever talked to them about was digital products, they'd get bored, and so would I. So think about that as well. All right. And always have some type of call to action in your email messages so that there is the next logical step that you want people to take. All right. So I'm just going to very quickly give you those benchmarks for email messages again. One, average open rate 25% to 35%. Average click rate, meaning, something you're sending them to, is 2 to 5%. And then your average unsubscribe rate is going to be 0.1 to 0.5%. And so keep in mind, this is something you should be looking at for every single email message that you send out. And you should be able to very easily see those statistics by email message. And then you should also have a way of being able to see the overall rate. Okay. Now, I've had email messages. Let's see here. I have had email messages with a open rate as high as like maybe 50%. That rarely happens. That rarely happens. That's like, lightning in a bottle. So don't think that your numbers are going to be drastically different. Just focus on at least staying within the averages, and hopefully, maybe even getting a little bit better than the average in some cases. Not all the time, but in some cases. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to share with you is that as you continue to grow your email list, one thing you should be doing on a regular basis as well is cleaning the list. You should clean it, which means if you're sending out email messages and 65 to 75% of those people are not opening it, what I would do is I would look at and maybe give them, 5 weeks. Let's say you're sending a message out once a week. If they haven't opened anything in 5 or 6 weeks, you might want to just remove them from your list because obviously they're not engaged. Now, you can always send out another message that says, it looks like this is goodbye. That could be your subject line. And you could essentially say, it looks like you haven't opened any of my email messages. I just want to find out if you're interested in staying connected with me. And if not, no big deal. Just wanted to check in with you. And sometimes that type of message is enough to get people to re-engage with you. Okay. So clean your list, because with some email providers, what you're going to find is that your subscription rate, what you're paying on a monthly or annual basis, is going to be based upon the number of subscribers you have. And it just doesn't make any sense to be paying for subscribers that are not engaged with you. So remember that you have to do that. And the reason why I always want to tell you that is just having a huge list with people that are not engaged, that is not the move. That's not what we're looking for. You're looking to have a pretty engaged list. And so your job is to clean it on a regular basis. When I say clean it on a regular basis, maybe you do it quarterly, maybe semi-annually or annually. Annually is probably not often enough, and don't feel bad about doing that, because again, if people decide later that they want to resubscribe, they can do that. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing that I want to get into is going to be your social media engagement. All right. So if you are building your business, let's say on Instagram or Facebook or Threads or any of those, then these statistics are going to be meaningful to you and probably helpful to you. So the first thing that you have to keep in mind is with your I'm not going to use YouTube at this point, but with your subscribers or followers on those platforms, you have to keep in mind that the algorithms on those platforms are designed to serve up content to the right people. Why? Obviously, they want to keep people on the platform as often as possible. So here's something else you should be aware of. When you post something on social media, only 3 to 4% of your audience is ever going to see that piece of content. That means, 96 to 97% of the people that follow you are never going to see the piece of content, at least not when you posted it. That's why I always encourage people to reuse and repurpose content, because if you post something today and 96% of your audience doesn't see it, well, post it again in a month or 2 months, because then at least another 3 to 4% of the people will have the opportunity to see that. Now, a lot of times when people hear that, it just like is like taking a pin to their balloon and bursting it. And I know it can be tough, because a lot goes into creating good content. And for only a small percentage of people to see it, well, that can be frustrating. Okay. Now, let me give you some of the stats that they're sharing. For Instagram, about 1 to 3% of your audience, of the people following you, are actually going to see your content. On Facebook, it's going to be 0.5 to 1%. So it's really even lower. Now, why is that the case? In some cases, it's strictly because there's so much content that is hitting the platform that, things are just moving so fast that they can't even keep up with it. And, you also have to keep in mind that there are people that go onto the platform twice a week or 3 times a week. So if you post on a day that they're not typically on the platform, unless they go specifically to your page, they're probably not going to see it. Why? Because Facebook or Instagram is curating a For You page, which means they're kind of deciding what they're going to share with people. And so that's how your content may or may not get seen. Now, how can you improve those odds? You have to create content that people are going to engage with. You also have to create content that people are going to share. Let me go back to the engagement. That might be like a poll where people are clicking something or they are commenting based upon what you posted. So in the comment section, they're actually saying something to you. They're thanking you. They're asking you questions and so forth. Now, another type of way that people can, in fact, engage with you is they might just save the post for future reference. Another way, and one thing that, these platforms love, is when the people are sharing that content. Now, when they share it with friends and so forth, all of those things are signaling to the social media platform, hey, this is a good piece of content, share it with more people. Another thing is the type of content. So let's take a look at Instagram, for example. Right now, Instagram is all into reels. So if you are just doing a text post versus a reel that people may watch 1, 2, or 3 times, because, a reel can move like, be 8 seconds long. And because people can't read everything the first time they watch it again to get a better understanding of what was going on. Or maybe it was something funny and they want to see it again. So, Reels, video based content, let's say, is going to perform better, meaning it's going to be shown more often. And right now, because Facebook as well as Instagram are pushing Reels, if you're going to be building on those platforms, that's what I would suggest, that you spend the time creating, because that has the greater likelihood of being shown to more people. All right. Okay, I went in on that one. I just want to make sure that you know that. Now, a lot of times too, with these pieces of content you're going to create on Facebook and Instagram, the life of those is going to be relatively short. That's one of the reasons why my preferred platform is YouTube, because you can create a piece of content on YouTube and post it, and it can live there for years, and people can find it for years, and people can comment on it for years and share it for years. You get the point. Well, that's not likely to be the case with content you're going to create on Instagram and also Facebook. I'm not saying it can't ever happen, and even with TikTok, I'm not saying it can't ever happen. I'm just saying that, again, YouTube is going to allow your content to sit out there for a longer period of time, forever essentially, unless it gets removed because of you violating some rule. But it's going to sit out there, and that's going to allow people to find it. I'm just a believer in, let's work hard, smart, not super hard, by having to create a ton of content. Literally, you can build a YouTube channel by posting 1 to 2 videos per week. Going live is going to help you as well. Why? Because right now, YouTube is all about pushing live streams. Now, that's also true for Instagram and also Facebook. Live streams, they're pushing more. So just keep those things in mind when you're creating content. Because to me, if you're going to create something, you want it to be able to live on for a while, and you want lots of people to be able to find it. Now, the next part of this is, again, repurposing, or let me first talk about reusing that content. Whatever content you are creating for Instagram and, Facebook and so forth, make sure you reuse that. Post it again. Now, here's the thing about Instagram and also Facebook. You're going to have to change it up a little bit because they don't like the same kind of content being posted over and over again. All right. So you might have to take the raw video and you might have to change the song, or you may have to change the caption or the hook or something like that in order to be able to reuse it and get it pushed out a little bit more. Now, if you are building on YouTube, for example, YouTube has the platform where you can upload your videos, but they also have a post page. And on that post page, you can post things like text-based content. You can post images and so forth. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, I have taken content that I have posted on YouTube's post page 2, 3, 4 months back and just reposted it exactly the same, and I have not at all been penalized. So just know that, using that content over and over again is a good thing. And it's going to be especially useful for you when you are, let's say, taking a vacation. If you're going to be on vacation, take and repost some content. Maybe you have to repurpose it a little bit, but repost it, repurpose it so that it can be used again and discovered by more people. Another thing with regard to this is, keep in mind, people are if you're continuously creating content, eventually people are going to find you, and people will find you this month. They're going to find you in July, and they'll find you in September, all new people, because your audience is growing. Well, those people who find you in, let's say, June, they didn't know you posted something back in February, for example. That's why you can comfortably reuse content or repurpose content. And even the people in your audience, if they've seen the content, seeing it again could just be a good reminder for them. Okay. All right. So just to summarize that, Instagram's engagement rates 1 to 3%, Facebook 0.5 to 1%. All right. So just keep in mind that a lot of the people that are seeing content, or a lot of people may not see your content. Another thing I want to throw out to you is there are lots of people that will see your content and they will never comment, they will never like, they will never share it. Okay. I consider those people to be lurkers. Doesn't mean they won't ever do that. They won't ever comment or like or share or ask you a question or anything. It just means that about 90% of the population is going to lurk for a while before they will ever engage with your content. All right. Okay, another thing with regard to YouTube, because I do want to share this with you. When you are building on YouTube, it could take you 35 videos before you start getting any traction and YouTube starts pushing it out. It could take you 50 videos. It could take you 100. You might strike lightning in a bottle, and the very, first 10 videos or something, one of those actually pops off and ends up actually being discovered in the browse section, or being suggested. But don't count on that happening if you're brand new. I'm not saying it can't, just don't count on that happening. So just stay the course, create content, and eventually YouTube will help you find your audience and push that content out. The same thing will happen with Facebook and Instagram. It's going to take them time to figure out who your audience is and which pieces of content are going to perform better. All right. Okay. All right. Let's move on now and let's talk about creating or the next part that people want to create, which is let's say you create a digital product. Okay. Now, the first thing that I want to share with you is when we start talking about digital products of any type, anything that you're selling online, go back to what I said earlier, which is typically it's going to take people 7 exposures before they're going to make a decision to actually purchase. And then even after that, some of them might need more time. Now, when we talk about building your sales page or your checkout page, here's something you should write down because you should be very much aware of this, which is if 100 people go to your sales page or checkout page, only 1 to 3%, and 3% is probably high, are going to buy, which means 100 people visiting your page, you're going to get 1 to 2 sales. And if you get 1 to 2 sales, you're doing good. Now, again, you could strike lightning in a bottle and maybe get 5 sales, but that's typically not going to be the case. Now, why is that? Because a lot of these people are first when they land on your sales page, they're just getting to know you. They don't know anything about you. They don't know if they can trust you. They don't know if you can be their mentor. They've got to think through, does this product do what, I need it to do for me? Does it have everything in it that I want? Is it too expensive? Is it, why is it so cheap? I mean, people have all sorts of reasons why. But oftentimes, if they're interested, they will come back to it. And so that's why when you're sending your email messages out, you have to periodically refer to that digital product so people will revisit it. Another thing that can happen is, sometimes people plan to buy it and then they get distracted by life. They forget about it and they just never complete the checkout page. So, what does all of this mean? That means that you have to get really good at sending traffic to your checkout pages or your sales page because only 1 to 2% of the people that visit are going to buy. Now, I know for a lot of people that I have shared that statistic with, and trust me, that's not something I made up, that's an industry average. When I share this with people, I have seen just some looks on people's faces of just discouragement. Well, don't get discouraged, just play the numbers. It's a numbers game, which means you have to get good at having traffic that's going to your offer. And you really want to get to a point where you are able to create content that sends traffic to your sales page or checkout page, your offer, as I like to call it, continuously while you're sleeping, while you're vacationing, while you're, doing whatever else it is you need to do, cooking dinner and so forth. And all of that is going to add up to those 100 visitors and 1 to 2 product sales per 100 visitors, for example. And I know that for a lot of people, hearing that statistic can be, it can be frustrating. But like I said, you just have to learn to play the numbers. That's why I also don't suggest that you have a ton of digital products. Someone asked me for a list of digital products recently. Well, I'm going to share with you something and a reason why I am paring that down drastically. Last year, about March or so of last year, I think it was, maybe a little later in the year, I learned of a concept called the rule of the 5 1s. All right. And essentially, it talked about creating or having one product that you focus in on for 1 year, you promote it on one platform, and you are promoting it to one target audience instead of having a ton of digital products. Because here's what happens when you have a ton of digital products: people land on your stand store, wherever all these digital products are, and now they get confused. Now they're like, which one do I start with? Which one do I buy? And see, I was one of those that had a ton of products and they were selling. They weren't selling a ton, but they were selling. And now I realize why. It's because I was confusing people. So from that, from learning that, that's when I said, I've got to go back and redo this strategy. So, what I'm going to do is focus in on one primary product that has an order bump and two upsells. But the only thing I'm going to push is that first product. And that's what I would encourage you to do. That is the rule of the 5 1s. And one of the reasons why I like this is as I started to look at others, one of the things I realized, others who are building in the industry and not necessarily doing digital products, they're all doing the same thing. And then I read a book called Ready, Fire, Aim. You can get that book. It's actually listed in my Amazon store, and the author's teaching the exact same thing. He's like, no, you focus on one product for 1 year, one target audience, focus on solving one problem, and that's what you push. And once you get to the point where, you are consistently selling, if you want to add on new products, do it. But what you're able to do is to allow yourself to become an authority in that specific area. And so, you know what that felt like to me? Relief. Because I don't have to have all these products. I don't have to promote all these things, because anytime you have a product, the vast majority of your time is going to be spent promoting it. If you've got 20 products, it is tough to consistently promote them. And then another thing is this: if all for every product that you have, you also are responsible for keeping it updated. And if you have that many products, it is very difficult to do that. So as I said, when I heard this last year, I was like, that just makes so much sense. So I started retiring products, started pulling them back in, started shutting down sales pages. And this is going to allow me to focus. It will allow you to focus as well. And I'm in the process of building out a membership, and so these are the types of concepts that I'll be teaching in the membership, because my whole goal is to remove overwhelm from you. My whole goal is for you to learn from my mistakes so you can get there faster. All right. Okay. So let's see here. Denise says, I have a course and a digital product. Haven't started promoting the digital product yet, but it should be ready soon. And your canning course is for one group, digital product for another. Yeah, as I said, the thing is that gives you just a couple of products. You have a larger audience, way larger audience than most people. So using your email list to get messages out to people, to share with them and educate them and so forth, is going to send traffic to your sales page. The other thing it's going to do is it's going to not only make sure that you are sending traffic, but you have a catalog of YouTube videos. Those can also send people. As I said, the whole thing is just not to have a ton of different products. Okay. Now, I hadn't really even planned to go into that, but I think it makes sense because to share it with you, because as you are thinking about building things, I want you to learn that concept so that you can implement it. All right. Okay, now the next thing is, in the early months of building your business, your focus is really going to be about building the audience on social media, moving them to your email list, and then using your email list to help sell them the different products that you have. Why using your email list? Because those people are warm versus, a cold audience, someone who's meeting you for the very first time on social media. You have warmed people up through the email. So if you go social media, email, and to your product, and keeping in mind that you have to you still can't be promoting your product all the time. You can only promote it, so many times before you're going to turn people off. But just know that is a great flow in order to get a constant flow of people going. Another way, if you choose that you just do not want to build an email list, which I'm going to keep working on you for that because you really should have an email list. You could essentially go from your social media platform or YouTube, if you're using that, directly to your product. But you've got to educate in that social media platform or that YouTube video. Tell people why this is a good product and then give them the link. That will work as well. The reason why I like for you to have an email list is, what if that social media platform suddenly shuts down? What if they suddenly shut you down? You are going to lose connection with all those people that you have taken the time to build. That's why you need an email list. That is an asset in your business. It is something that's going to allow you to, nurture the relationship and then recommend products to them based upon the things that you educate them on. Okay. All right. Now, let's see here. I just want to make sure we're on target here. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. One thing is, typically, most solopreneurs, those of you and myself who are, one person operations, if you will, it's typically going to be somewhere in that 200 to 500 range of email subscribers where you're going to start to see consistency in terms of people buying from that list and clicking through. And it's just because you have built up enough people that you can now start driving them to the products that you have. I'm not saying you can't do it before that, but it's like, when you have those numbers, that's when the consistency is going to kick in and people will buy. For example, I promoted a product about, I think it was a month ago, and I haven't promoted it much. As a matter of fact, I've never promoted it on YouTube. And I just mentioned it in my email messages. It was a very simple product, very inexpensive product. And I think I promoted it twice. And I'm still seeing sales come in from it. And it's because people are obviously going back to those email messages, or they're opening them for the first time and they're clicking the link because that's the only place the link is available. So, just know that, there's a lot of advantages to doing that, and certainly understanding all these different benchmarks in order for you to really make sure that you have a list that is growing, your audience is growing, you know what to expect as it begins to grow, you know how many sales are going to be, or how many people have to go to your sales page before they're going to buy. And so once you start to understand these things and you internalize it, then you can just reverse engineer something. So let's say, for example, you decide you want to make X number of dollars per month, and you have a product and you know how much you want to make, you know how much the product is going to cost. So now what you have to do is focus on sending the traffic to the page. That's the only thing you can control. You can't control how many people are going to buy. You can't control the number of people that are going to look at it and maybe decide later. All you can control is the number of people you send to the page. So, and I don't want to get too deep into this. So, whatever your digital product is, make sure that the pieces of content that you are creating to get people to go to that digital product are in sync or in alignment with one another. In other words, I can't talk to you about, let's say, I was going to talk to you about creating a blanket, a crocheting a blanket. And then my content that I'm using to send you to it is talking about, the struggles of being a brand new crocheter. Well, they probably don't sync up. Whereas if I can say, hey, here's this blanket that I created, I was able to do it in, create it in um, 2 weeks or whatever the time frame is. It was pretty easy. I followed this pattern. And so what I did is I put all of that into a product that will show you exactly how to do it. Now, here's the link to that. See, that lines up. So it's the content, that leads directly into it. And sometimes this is where the disconnect comes in. People's content does not line up with the product that they're promoting. Even with your email list, your content that you're using to get people to your email list and to sign up for it, they're not in sync with one another. So you really have to kind of think these through. I always say, draw things out, mind map it, look at, what it is you ultimately want them to do, and then reverse engineer it. So if you want them to buy, what needs to happen first, or prior to that? What type of content do you need to create that's going to be in alignment with that digital product? Okay. So does that make sense to everybody in terms of how all of this stuff lines up? I know I gave you the benchmarks, I told you the things to look out for, but I do want you to really understand that these numbers are the numbers. And so if you are sending 100 people to your sales page and you're expecting that 30 or 40 are going to buy, that's just not going to happen. I mean, the likelihood that that's going to happen is almost zero. Same thing with your email messages. If you're sending out 100 email messages, if you think 50 or 60 or 70 percent of that list is going to open it, that is likely not going to happen. It's rare that that is going to happen. All right. So I definitely I've got a lot more numbers, but I don't want to get into too much with this because you have to understand my background. I'm a certified public accountant by training, so numbers are my jam. I like to tell people I'm good at analyzing numbers and looking at numbers and understanding numbers. Everybody's not that way. I just want you to have some basic things to understand, and I only want you to worry about these things or concern yourself with them when it's time to. So, in other words, if you haven't even created a digital product, don't worry about conversion rates on a sales page. If you haven't even started building an email list, well, at this point, don't worry about, the conversion or the open rates or anything like that. You just simply focus on what you have to do to create good content. Once you create good content and people are liking and commenting, next step is you got to move into adding on a lead magnet that's going to move them onto your list. Now, once they're on your list, and I don't care if it's one person that's on your list, you need to start sending out a weekly email so you can connect with them. Now, if you got one person on your list and you have a 25% open rate, that first email they might not even open, and that's okay, because when you build it up to 10, then two people might open up the list or something, or open up the email messages. So only worry about things based upon where you are at in the process. That's why I say what I want you to do is to save this so that you can come back to it. All right, I just want to make sure I didn't. There we go. I want you to save this so you can come back to it, because once you start sending out email messages, now you can go back and say, oh, that's right. My open rate should be somewhere between 25 and 35%. So, I got a 36% open rate. I'm actually ahead of the curve. Or my open rate was only 5%. Okay, I have some work to do. Let me reevaluate my title. Let me reevaluate whether it's ending up in people's spam folders and so forth. So just worry about where you're at. Okay. And from there, you can work on the other stuff as it becomes time to do so. All right. Okay. So let's see where we're at. All right. I appreciate that. Thank you so much, Denise. And I'm glad that it was helpful. Based upon what you told me in terms of the number of people on your list, you definitely should be sending out a weekly email. And so you know the benchmarks now in order to compare yourself against those and see how you're doing. All right. And then Mickey says, great information. I'm in the back working. I understand that. So, as I said, just make sure to save it so you can come back to it when you need to. All right. And then, yes. Denise, you need to create the content that supports the product. So it's a natural progression from content that you've created into the product that you're offering for sale. Because now it's just people are like, oh, okay, she just taught me about that. I can see how this product is going to help me. It's going to solve this problem. I need to click the buy button. So, and they'll click on the link where you are sending them to your sales page. So, absolutely. All right. So let me just see if I have left. Oh, you can answer this question for me. Which one of those benchmarks that I shared surprised you most? Was it open rates? Was it conversion rates? That one surprises a lot of people. Conversion rates on a sales page? Was it the number of people on a social media platform that are seeing your content? Which one of those actually surprised you most? Because I said, I just remember what it was like when I was first getting started, and those open rates were a challenge for me, and even the sales page. The number of people purchasing, that was also an eye opener. So, as I always say, I like to make sure that I share my experience with you so that you can learn from the things that I had to encounter. It's almost like me helping you shorten your learning curve as you are going through all of this. Okay. So, also, what I want to share with you is that, as I mentioned, we are in the process of doing some beta testing for the membership that I have started launching. And, I'm going to, over the next few weeks, share more information with you about that. So you'll have the opportunity to actually join that membership if, in fact, you're interested. And I have to tell you, I am so excited about the group of people who are participating in this membership. They're extremely supportive. They're connecting with one another. And my goal is to take a lot of the information where I'm teaching you on something like this. I'm teaching you what to do, but in the membership, I'm going to teach you how to do it, the step-by-step stuff to actually get it done. So, for example, how to write subject lines for your email messages. That's the kind of stuff that you will actually see taught within the membership. So just kind of keep that in mind, and I'll keep you updated as to when that's actually going to happen. So, okay, yeah, the open rate, yeah. So I know it seems minimal, which is why, as I said, now that when you start sending those messages out, that there's just a small percentage of your list that's actually going to open them. And so that way you can be prepared. You won't be shocked by it. You'll just know that what the number is. And as long as you fall within the range, you'll know you're on target. So, again, that's why you have to keep cleaning your list as well. So you don't just end up with a bunch of people that are receiving emails who are never opening that as well. All right. So, let me just see if I have anything else that I won't go into that right now because, again, a lot of you aren't at the point yet where you need to know conversion rates on upsells and all that kind of stuff. We'll do that at a later time. All right. So I'm not going to keep you much longer. I do want to share with you though that whenever you are creating something, when you are wanting to get to the point, let's say, for example, if you want to create digital products, let's just say that that's your ultimate goal. Just know that there are steps you should go through before you get to the point of selling digital products. I kind of tell people, because I hear a lot of folks that want to start an online business, and the very first thing they say is, I want to sell digital products. I'm like, great, that is definitely great, but understand there are things you need to do leading up to being able to sell. Now, can you sell digital products without having an audience? Absolutely, you can, but you should be prepared to either run ads or sell on a platform like Etsy. Now, I like an organic approach. Now, I'm not saying I won't ever use ads, but I like an organic approach, which is you spend most of your time when you're first getting started building an audience. And the way that you're going to build an audience is by creating content that's going to pull them in. What kind of content pulls them in? Content that solves the problems that they're encountering. And even that took me a long time to figure out because I kept getting on these trainings and people were like, well, you want to create digital products, just ask your audience. And I'm like, what audience? I don't have an audience. But no one was teaching how to create it, how to build an audience from scratch. So that is one of the things that I teach. Your content, targeted content, is what's going to help you build an audience of people that want to learn about that particular topic. And then, as I mentioned, from that point, you have the opportunity to continue to nurture that audience. Yes, you can nurture them on the social media platform where they found you, but it's better to nurture them in email. Okay, through email. So there are steps. I like to say if you start a business today and you just decide you want to start selling digital products, that's like saying you want to learn to drive and the first thing you want to do is start driving on the interstate. Well, you don't even know how to press the start button to get the car going. You don't know how to put it in gear. There are things you have to do. And Sean Cannell always says this, which is influence is going to come before income. So you're going to have to build some authority. You're going to have to pay your dues. You're going to have to put in some work to create that content. You're going to have to put the work in to post it regularly. You're going to have to engage with people because there will come a time where people start to ask you questions. And this is another thing I've seen a lot of people do. They don't respond to the questions. Well, when you're brand new, you have to. And not saying that you should just stop it once you get to a certain point, but you definitely have to because some of your greatest content and some of your digital product ideas or even lead magnet ideas are going to come from the people who are responding to you, the people that are commenting on your content. So, don't try to run before you've learned to crawl. That's all I'm saying. Do the steps in the order. And again, that is something else that I teach within the membership, which is, there's a specific process that you need to follow before you get to the point where you're going to be able to create products that are going to sell and that are going to sell because you've built an audience and they've told you what they want. All right. So, with that being said, we're going to get ready to wrap up. I certainly appreciate you being on here live with me. I always say if you enjoy the comment, please give it a thumbs up. Definitely share it with your business besties, people that are also interested in building an online business. And certainly make sure that you come back on Wednesdays, 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I teach on a variety of topics from content creation to digital products to affiliate marketing to email marketing. And if all of those things are things that are going to help you build a strong and healthy business that can ultimately become profitable for you. So again, I appreciate you being here and I look forward to seeing you on a future live stream. Take care, have an awesome day, and an even better week.